Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 4. You made it. And so today we've talked about physical self, emotional self, and today we're going to talk about the mental self. So it's possible to control your emotions by controlling your thoughts. And so thought processes are pretty important. The different types different types of thinking styles. But today we used to talk about two. Styles and learning styles, and we also have personality. And there's not a gene for personality. There are different personality types. If I'm going to go into personality types later on, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it today. I'm going to dedicate a whole lecture to that. And so and then when what we want to talk about today is stinking thinking. you know because remember I was talking about automatic negative thoughts. Sometimes our thoughts are so messed up, and it impacts the way we think, it impacts our emotions, it impacts all areas of our lives. And so it is important that we just take a minute to look at it. This distorted thinking comes into play typically when we have our a narrow focus on things. Whether the emotion is of a high or low arousal variety, if the balance on there is unpleasant, it's typically because of a distortion. It's usually because of a distortion. So let's look at some of this distortion and see if any of it fits you. Okay, so the first one we're going to start with is dichotomous reasoning, or polarized thinking, really. That's what that is. And basically, it involves this person sees things in black or white. It's either for us or against us. Frequently there is no in between for this person. There are no gray areas. There is no middle ground. It's either you're with us or you're against us. A person with polarized thoughts. They see people in categories. You're Republican, you're Democrat, and we cannot agree on anything. They don't allow for. But see, the problem with that is people don't allow for the complexity of humanity. The things are not always so extreme. There's good in some bad people, and there's bad in some good people. It's just the way life is. And so if you have that type of reasoning, it will mess up the way you think, because you can't give grace. You're stuck in your ways. So then we have destructive labeling. If you have ever thought to yourself, this is stupid, that child is ignorant, or that person is this, you're engaged in destructive labeling. Basically, it's an extreme form of overgeneralization. When you just label something, instead of describing an error in the context of that specific situation, you attach an unhealthy label, universal label to it. That person is ignorant. That person is, which way. So then that will also mess up your thought life. So the next one we want to look at is personalization. This is a distortion where a person believes that everything others do or say is directly about them. It is amazing. They literally take everything personally. So you could say something that has nothing to do with them. Or let's say a coworker is frowning, and this person will just think that it is because of them that they're frowning. Distortion. A person who experiences this kind of thinking will always compare themselves to others. They're always very, very competitive. They're trying to determine who is smarter, who is better looking. You do A, they're going to do B. You do C, they're going to do, they're always wanting to outdo you, outsmart you, outshine you. Because they think everything is about them and everything is competitive. You were late to dinner to the dinner party and caused everybody to have a terrible time. This, personalization. It's because I was late that this happened. It's because, I did this, that happened. And that person said that on social media, or that person said that at church, or that person said that at my work, that person said that, and that means it's about me. Personalization. That would distort you because it won't allow you to see things clearly. The next one is filtering. Filtering is a person engages in filtering or mental filtering. They will take the negative details of a conversation or an event and magnify those details and filter out all the good parts. So for example, let's say you got all A's. This is really, since I have kids at home working at home. Let's say they got all A's and they get a B or get a C or whatever that one is. That one is what becomes the big deal. Or let's just say, good things have been happening to you. You have a good job, you have a this, you have a good home, you have a this, and then one thing is messed up. That one thing then is magnified, and all the other good things don't matter anymore. When you do that, it's a cognitive filter, and you only see negative. Imagine what that does to your emotions, what that does to your thought life. It messes you up because then the entire universe is negative. Overgeneralization. In this cognitive distortion, a person comes to a general conclusion based on a single event or a single piece of evidence or information. If something bad happened just once, then they expect that bad thing is going to happen over and over again. They don't see a single event or unpleasant event as just that. It is a never-ending process of defeat. Okay? That means it's going to mess up your thought life. Jumping to conclusion. Without individuals saying so, a person who jumps to conclusions knows what another person is feeling and thinking. So without you telling them, they know what you're thinking, they know what you're feeling, and they know exactly what to do or how you're going to do it. It is the person who jumps to conclusion can also manifest in fortune telling, with the belief that the future is prescriptive. For example, a person may conclude that a person is holding a grudge against them, but doesn't actually bother to find out if they're correct. They don't know if that person holds a grudge against them. Or fortune telling, when you just say, I'm never going to have a good relationship ever in my life because, my relationship was messed up at one point in my life. So I'm not good at this. So I'm just not going to bother, with relationships. You fortune telling. You've jumped to a conclusion about life when you don't even know what's going to happen tomorrow. So, catastrophizing, that's a good one. When a person engages in catastrophizing, they expect disaster to strike no matter what. They expect the other shoe to drop. Also referred to as magnifying. They hear about a problem and uses the what if question. What if tragedy strikes? What if we all die tomorrow? What if this happens to me? What if my whole entire family, this is absolute worst case scenario, catastrophizing. For example, like this pandemic that we're all experiencing. Someone who catastrophize is gonna think, oh my God, we're all going to die. Like literally, we're all going to die. Sometimes we exaggerate the importance of significant events. That would mess up your thought life. Fallacy of fairness. It's the fallacy of fairness. Fallacy of fairness. A person feels resentful because they think that they know what is fair and other people won't agree with them. People say life isn't fair, but people who have the fallacy of fairness are always expecting that if I do good things are going to happen to me. If there's always action and rewards. But life is not that way. We have seen good things happen to bad people and bad things happen to good people. Things don't always work out the way we think they're going to work out. And if you are resting in the fallacy of fairness, you're stuck because you can't navigate the world around you. Does that make sense? Okay. How about blaming? When a person engages in blaming, they hold other people responsible for their emotional pain. That means I'm this way because you hurt me 20 years ago. I'm this way because you hurt me, and I cannot move on. They also take the opposite track, and instead of blaming themselves for every problem, they basically, find someone else they're going to blame. For example, they'll say things like, stop making me feel bad about myself. It's because of you I'm this way. It's because of you I put on weight. It's because of you I have a headache. It's because of you I did this. That is basically outsourcing your power, because obviously if it's not your fault, if it's because of this other person that your life is that way, that means you have no control. The locus of control is external. You can't do anything, and you will forever perpetually suffer because somebody else has your happiness in their hands. Wow. What kind of power is that would you surrender to other people? You don't need to do that. Emotional reasoning. The distortion of emotional reasoning can be summed up in this statement: if I feel that way, it must be true. These are people who their emotions is the gauge of everything. And I told you, sometimes you can't trust emotions because they're basically a reflection of your experiences. So whatever I'm feeling is automatically true and unconditional because I feel it. So if I'm feeling stupid, then I must be stupid. Whatever I'm feeling, then it's okay. It's fine. That doesn't make sense. If you think about it rationally, but when you're feeling it, you don't think about it because you're not thinking rationally. You blot out all reasoning. Okay. Because I feel, therefore it must be true, or this person will also say, because I don't feel, because I'm not feeling this way about you today, that means I don't like you. Because I'm not feeling love towards you, that means I don't love you. But what you give into and what you examine is what is magnified. And so just because you're not feeling something today doesn't mean that it's not there, or doesn't mean that you cannot feel it. Does that make sense? Okay. The fallacy of change. In the fallacy of change, a person expects that other people will change to suit them if they just pressure them enough. Like, I can change my husband, I can change my wife, I can change that other person, because if I change them, they'll be better. It's a distortion. You can't change anybody. So in life, you have to figure out, can I live with the person I'm with or not? Those are conversations you have to, but the fallacy of change, that somebody's going to change except with an act of God, So if you pray for the person but what I usually say is the person that needs to change is you. You are the one, because you have locus of control. You have onus on your own personal change. You can change yourself. Sometimes it's changing your perception of things, and things just change. It's not because anything changed, really, you changed. And then you have the person that was always right. Always right. When a person engages in this situation, in this distortion, they are continually putting other people on trial to prove that their own opinions and actions are right. We can be expressing the same thing, and you want to be right, so you're going to post things, you're going to do things just so people know that you're right. To a person engaging in always being right, being wrong is unthinkable. They will go to the lengths to demonstrate their rightness, even if they're wrong. Even if they're wrong. So you heard them. Then they'll start doing things to prove their rightness. They'll say things like, I don't care how badly arguing with me makes you feel, I'm going to win this argument no matter what, because I'm right. So for this person, being right is so much more important than the feelings of others around them. This kind of distortion will hurt people. So when we engage in distorted thinking, we can frequently frame a situation inaccurately and in ways that perpetuate conflict rather than de-escalating it. Does that make sense? We're constantly manipulating events to suit our purpose. So typically when our emotions are unpleasant, our thoughts race and become shortened. This allows illogical notions to thrive. They're illogical, they don't make sense, but they thrive. They could become strongholds, like things that you really believe, when the reality is that thing isn't true. Okay, so here are some ways you can counteract, because we're talking about healing, right? Here's the way to fix some of these things. Rephrase a thought into a complete sentence. That usually helps. For example, instead of thinking, oh, that person's a loser, that person is this, that person is a thing, think of it. Oh, I'm a loser, or whatever. Say what you're saying. Is this person a loser? Am I a loser? Once you rephrase the thought into a complete sentence, the distortion becomes evident, because you're like, well, I'm not a loser. Well, that person isn't a loser. So sometimes you need to make a complete sentence so that you can really know what you're saying, like turn into a complete sentence. Counter your distorted thoughts with a question or a statement that clarifies your reasoning. For example, if you notice you're magnifying stuff, ask yourself if it's really that bad, and how likely will that worst case scenario come to pass? Think about it. If you're engaged in destructive labeling, ask yourself for specifics. Like, what specifically has this person done? What has this woman done to offend me? What has this man done to offend me? What have they done specifically? And when you look at what they've done, and then you look at all the things they have, all the good things that they've done, then weigh it and say, okay, maybe this is a distorted thought. Does that make sense? Okay. Try this rule of thumb for expanding your focus and reframing problems. This is really good. It works. You say things like, the real problem is not Mrs. Jones. The real problem is that I am scared of you. Like, you said what the real problem is. So start with, the real problem is not. And usually, can I give you a clue? The real problem is usually not the other person. Honestly. Not that they're perfect. Not that they're not a problem. But that's not the real problem. The real problem is, why did I make this choice? Why am I here? I'm mad at myself. The real problem is, I'm scared to leave. I'm scared to stay. That's the real problem. But until you identify the real problem, I'm scared to love again. I'm scared to open my heart. That person, that man, that woman is not the real problem. Does that make sense? Yeah? Yeah. And then allow yourself to think in shades of gray, and let go of this completely, you're with us, polarized thinking of you're with us, you're not with us, you're black or white. It's either you're in or out. There's no in between, that kind of thinking is very challenging because our minds take cognitive shortcuts to simplify processing of stimuli in order to hurry our ability to make quick decisions. So black or white thinking sometimes serves a good purpose because you can categorize events and people. You progressively from one level to another. So enjoy the level that you're at because another level is coming. Maybe you're not there yet. Some people are not able to even enjoy relationships. Why? Because they're not what it's supposed to be. Enjoy what you have. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? So if you are one of the lucky ones or blessed ones who have relationships around you. You have people in your circle who are gifts to you. You know, get away from all of this distorted thinking so you can enjoy who you have. So if you have any questions, let me know. You can reach me at info@akingmarino.com. You can find me on social media at Dr. Marino, either Twitter or Instagram, or you could instant message me on Facebook. Shalom. Be well. We'll get through this.